Children's advocates say Queensland's youth justice reforms have taken community safety a step backwards. After 3 days of debate, the Queensland Parliament passed laws to crack down on youth offenders. Catherine Hayes from the Youth Advocacy Centre says the changes will not stop youth crime.
You might want to lock them up, or you might want to see them nurtured and rehabilitated. Typically, people seem to be quite split on the approach. It's a bit polarising. Today, you'll hear from a reformed offender who went through that nurture and rehabilitation approach and why he thinks these new youth justice reforms that went through Queensland Parliament last week could actually make the crime problems worse. Those new youth justice reforms that have come through Queensland Parliament last week, and since we have been hearing a range of views on that decision. On Friday at this time, you heard from a retired magistrate, Pat O'Shane, who described the changes as barbaric. She shared with you more about her practice of directing troubled youths into programs that saw them see psychologists, doctors, and take part in physical activity before getting them into jobs. One of the young people who's become quite the success story of the former magistrate's program, Shane Cuthbert, is now a community advocate in Queensland. I asked him for his take on the new laws.
I think we took a backward step by introducing some of these laws. They're some of the harshest laws and penalties as well for young people that we've introduced, and they've been introduced by a Labor government, which is traditionally doesn't really do this kind of thing. I mean, and I'd like to see some more investment in our young people. Myself, I didn't have an easy life and an easy upbringing, and when I was younger, I got into trouble and I challenged police, and I've been able to rehabilitate and reform my own life to the point where I'm now studying psychology and law at the Central Queensland University. I'm the president of the Central Queensland University Law Society, quite active as an advocate here in Cairns for young people. And look, I think we can just do better. I don't think the new laws are going to change anything. I actually think they are going to make things worse. I mean, there is some new aggravated offences for breaking and entering and stealing a car where a young person can be sentenced up to 14 years in prison. Now, picture a 12, 13, 14-year-old child. Yes, they may have done the wrong thing, but imagine being sentenced to 14 years in prison at that age. I mean, you're going to be released. Your chances of being rehabilitated when you are released are very slim. I mean, there's so many barriers to rehabilitation, and, you would just think, screw it. What's the point of trying to become, a valued member of society? I really think that these laws are just going in the wrong direction. I think we're headed in the wrong direction.
We've been hearing a lot more lately about the complexity of the problem and the reasons kids disengage and fall into this world of crime. And we've also been hearing about the community-wide supports and solutions that should be rolled out. No doubt some of these reforms have been from community and political pressure. But do we need to strike a balance of those tougher measures with addressing the problem at the source in proactively supporting families and youths to stop the cycle?
Look, you're 100% correct. And I'm a big believer that prevention is far better than, trying to implement something, after a crime has been committed. If we can get to these kids and give them the right support beforehand, we can reduce crime before it happens. It's all good to have very, very serious penalties and lock everybody up, after they've committed a crime. But, that's after maybe someone's life has been endangered or someone has been hurt or someone's been involved in a car accident, and we need to focus more on the prevention here. And it is a complex issue. I mean, a lot of these kids have come from families and backgrounds that are not ideal and that are not great. And, there's lots of things going on there. Their access to education, housing, just support in general is generally lacking. And I think we really, really need to look at this issue. I think the Queensland government really has bent under the pressure and they've implemented these changes. They have rushed them in. Now, I make regular submissions to different inquiries and different committees, parliamentary committees, as a student of law, quite substantial submissions. And I've spoken to Parliament on various issues in the past. And, you know, I really would have loved to have made a submission in this space, but what happened was the Queensland government put it out on a Wednesday, and you only had until the Friday at 12 p.m. You had 48 hours to make it a submission on this issue. Now, usually you have weeks, you have a couple of months for that community consultation process. So the Queensland government here has reduced the community consultation process to 48 hours, rushed them in, and I just think that that's incredible, considering that we are also suspending the Human Rights Act to make this happen. It just it blows my mind that we have a government that would suspend the Human Rights Act and only allow 48 hours for community consultation. It's just not enough. It's ridiculous.
You're on ABC Radio Queensland. Susan Graham-Ryan here, speaking with community advocate based in Queensland, Shaden Cuthbert. It is a complex issue, and I'm not on the front line, so I don't have that depth of understanding. And I don't think anyone really wants to see children incarcerated for 14 years. I don't think anyone wants to see that. But what I do hear from community members is they want to feel safe in their homes and communities, and they just don't right now.
Yeah, look, and there is a need for balance here, you know, and there is a need for punishment. I think that really what I'm critical of is the timing. I think it's been rushed. I think the ALP on this occasion has really just taken the LNP's, you know, policies and, you know, the LNP's been asking for the breach of bail offence for, you know, the last year or two. I think the ALP's just taken the LNP policies, packaged them up as their own and put them out there as a quick fix. But this isn't something that can be fixed quickly. This is something that is going to take time. And there's a lot of stakeholders and a lot of members of our communities that need to be consulted, and we all need to work together to make, you know, Cairns and the far north and our communities safer places.
Shane, can I ask you quickly, as somebody who did have a tough start to life, and you had those run-ins with police, as you mentioned earlier, do you think that as somebody who's been in that position of some of our youth criminals at the moment, do you think this policy will actually do anything to prevent them committing these crimes?
I don't. I actually think that at least for the next few months, I think crime will increase as a result. I think a lot of these kids, you know, especially these kids that we see on the news that are ramming police cars. I think last year at some point in Townsville, they drove a car through the police station there. Now, these are kids that are ultimately, you know, have their middle fingers up and they're saying, screw you. These are kids that have been let down by the systems, mistreated by the systems, have not been protected by the systems. And introducing these new tough laws, I think we're going to see, at least for the next few months, a lot of these kids becoming more violent, more committing more crimes. At least for the next few months, I think it's actually going to rise. It's going to be more serious as these kids deal with this new implementation. And, you know, they're going to come back to authority and say, screw you, in a big way.
We sure hope that that's not the case, but that's Shane Cuthbert there. He's a community advocate in far north Queensland. It'll be interesting to hear what you think about that. You can send through an SMS 0487 993 222.